My mother called me greedy in front of 20 people while I was still holding her stupid cranberry pie. I had oven mitts on, flour on my shirt, smiled plastered on my face, and she looked right at me, tilted her wine glass, and said, "Elise, honestly, with the money you make, you don't need to be so greedy. Let us do something nice for your sister for once." The room laughed. I laughed too. And that was the exact moment I realized two things. One, they genuinely believed I was the problem. Two, my revenge wasn't going to be a dramatic screaming match or some movie-style explosion. It was going to be quiet, surgical, numbers on a spreadsheet, and one final no that would change everything. Hey, I'm Elise. I'm 28. I live in Denver, Colorado, and I'm a senior accountant for a manufacturing company. I know, super glamorous, haha. Think steel beams and safety goggles, not suits and skyscrapers. I pay my own mortgage on a small but very cute condo. I have my own car, my own retirement account, my own book club, my own life. I have not asked my parents for a single dollar since I was 22. And my whole life, I thought that would matter. I thought being independent, being the easy child, would eventually earn me respect in my family. Like there was this cosmic scoreboard somewhere, and at some point, my mom would look up from worshiping my little sister, blink, and go, "Wow, Elise has really held her own. We should show up for her too." Yeah. No, because in my family, independence didn't earn me respect. It earned me disqualification. Let me back up for a second. I have one sibling, Vivien, 3 years younger, perfectly manicured, perfectly dramatic, the kind of girl people describe as a lot, but somehow always in this affectionate way, like it's charming when she throws a tantrum in a restaurant because they don't have her favorite sparkling water. Growing up, she was the sun my mother orbited around. My mom, Patricia, is, how do I even say this politely? Imagine if Pinterest's perfect mom board and a reality TV villain had a baby. She's always hosting, always curating, always telling stories where she's the sacrificial martyr and somehow also the hero. My dad, Gregory, is quieter, works in insurance, always has some sports game on in the background. He was the peacekeeper when we were kids, which in practice meant he let my mom do whatever she wanted and then told the rest of us to not upset your mother. As the older sister, my role was pretty clear from very early on. Be low maintenance, get good grades, don't rock the boat, and for the love of God, don't require more attention than Vivien. I didn't have the words scapegoat or golden child in my vocabulary back then, but if you've grown up with that dynamic, you feel it in your bones long before you can name it. Here's a snapshot. When I was 9, I got picked to represent my grade at this regional spelling bee. My teacher was over the moon. I had practiced for weeks, writing words on Post-its and sticking them all over my room like some tiny, nerdy serial killer. The competition was on a Saturday morning. That same Saturday, Vivien had a princess tea at the mall. It wasn't even a performance or anything. It was literally a bunch of little girls in tiaras drinking apple juice with a woman dressed as Cinderella. My mom had promised she'd split the day, come watch me spell words I couldn't even pronounce, then head to Viv's tea. She never showed. When I asked her about it that night, she sighed dramatically and said, "Sweetheart, you know how nervous and sensitive your sister is. She needed me there. You're so bright and self-sufficient. Of course you didn't need mommy to hold your hand on stage." I was 9, and already the narrative was set. Vivien needed. I didn't. Fast forward a few years. Braces. I needed them badly. My teeth were doing jazz hands. The orthodontist showed my parents this terrifying computerized image of what my jaw would look like if they didn't intervene. My mom frowned, looked at the estimate, and said, "We just can't swing that right now, honey. Maybe when things are better." 2 months later, Vivien started private ballet lessons at this insanely fancy studio across town. Custom leotards, these adorable little point shoes, hundreds of dollars a month. My mom's justification? Elise, you don't want braces anyway. They're uncomfortable. And dancing is the only thing that makes your sister feel special. You see the pattern. Every family trip was scheduled around Vivien's recitals or drama club or whatever new phase she was in. Every argument somehow circled back to how we all needed to be gentle with Vivien. Every big family decision used the same excuse. Vivien just needs more support. And me? You're the strong one, Elise. You don't need as much. So I leaned into it. I got straight A's, joined every free club under the sun, applied for scholarships like it was a sport. When my parents sat me down junior year and said, "We're so sorry, sweetie, but we just won't be able to help much with college," I believed them. I got 2 part-time jobs and figured, well, that's life. Then, 2 years later, I watched them send Vivien off to a private liberal arts college with a new laptop, a housing deposit paid in full, and a monthly stipend so she could focus on school and not be distracted by work. I was a sophomore, pumping gas on the way to my evening shift. When my mom texted a picture of Viv standing in her dorm room with fairy lights and a brand new MacBook, "We're just trying to set her up for success. You understand, right?" she added. I did what I always did, replied with a thumbs up, stuffed the hurt down deep, and told myself, one more time, that being the strong one was a compliment. By the time I was 24, I was working full-time in Denver, studying for my CPA exams at night, and living off cheap coffee and Trader Joe's frozen meals. Vivien, on the other hand, had dropped out of college after changing majors 3 times. She was finding herself, in air quotes, yoga 1 month, photography the next, a brief stint selling overpriced essential oils, you name it. Each new phase required a little help getting started, which always came from my parents. I know, on paper, it sounds so obvious. Of course there's favoritism. Of course it's unfair. But when you're in it, when it's your actual mother saying these things with tears in her eyes, you start to doubt your own perception. Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I am making a big deal out of nothing. I mean, she's not hitting me. She's not calling me names. She says she loves me, so it must be me, right? That's the headspace I was in when last Christmas rolled around. Early December, my mom called with her usual mix of guilt and obligation. "So," she sang down the line, "are we going to see your pretty face for Christmas this year? Or are you too busy being a big important accountant?" "I already booked my flight, Mom," I said. "I land on the 23rd. "Oh, wonderful. You can help with the cooking and bring that sweet potato dish everyone loves. And maybe come a little earlier to help me wrap? You know how hopeless your sister is with tape." Typical. Then her voice went just a touch higher, the way it does when she's lying. "And, Elise, don't go overboard on gifts this year, okay? We really don't want a big fuss, just something small and thoughtful. We're focusing on experiences." I could hear the capital E. "Experiences?" I repeated. "Yes," she rushed on. "We've been talking to Vivien about being more responsible, and we're doing something special to help her get back on her feet. It's a parent thing. You'll see. Just don't make a production with presents, okay?" I remember staring at my kitchen counter, at the stack of utility bills I had just paid, and feeling that familiar little pinch behind my ribs, the one that meant they're about to do something and you already know you're not going to like it. I almost said, "Are you giving her something huge again?" But my conditioning kicked in. Don't be jealous. Don't be needy. Don't be that daughter. So I swallowed it and joked instead. "Fine, fine. I'll leave the production numbers to Broadway Viv." My mom laughed. "That's my sensible girl." That phrase, "the sensible one," used to feel like a compliment. That night, for the first time, it felt like a leash. I flew home to our small Colorado town on the 23rd. My parents live in the same beige 2-story house I grew up in. It even smells the same, somewhere between vanilla candles and lemon pledge. Walking in, it was like stepping into a holiday catalog. My mom had gone all out, garland around the banister, matching stockings with our names embroidered, candles in every window. Christmas music was playing on low. It would have been cozy if it didn't also feel staged, like a set. "Elise!" My mom came at me with flailing arms and the kind of hug that's all perfume and no warmth. "Look at you. You've lost weight. Are you eating?" "Hi, Mom," I mumbled into her shoulder. My dad emerged from the kitchen. wiping his hands on a dish towel. "Hey, kiddo," he said, giving me one of those awkward side hugs men do when they don't really know how to be affectionate. "Traffic okay?" "Fine," I said. "Where's Viv?" As if on cue, we heard the crunch of tires on the icy driveway. My mother's face lit up like an actual Christmas tree. "She's here!" she squealed. "Greg, go help her with her bags. Elise, come on, help me with the roast." And just like that, I was back in my assigned role. Helper, extra set of hands, background character. Vivien breezed in a few minutes later, trailing cold air and expensive perfume. She was wearing one of those oversized teddy coats and carrying a tiny designer bag. Her hair was perfectly curled. She looked like she'd stepped out of some influencer's Instagram feed. "Elise," she sang, dragging out my name. "Oh my God, look at you. Corporate queen." She hugged me, air kissing my cheeks, then flopped dramatically onto the couch. "Travel is just so exhausting," she groaned. "I need, like, a week to recover." "You drove 40 minutes, I said quietly. She stuck her tongue out at me. "Details." "The evening was fine. Surface level updates, laughter at old stories, my mom fluttering from room to room, topping up everyone's wine except mine, because you're driving Viv's car back to Grandma's tomorrow, remember?" I did most of the cooking while my mom supervised. Vivien set the table and documented the whole thing on her Instagram story, narrating like she had a film crew. Holiday chaos at the Parker house. Mom's yelling, Elise's stress cooking, Dad's pretending he can't hear us. It was almost embarrassing how accurate that last part was. The next morning, Christmas Eve, we had our usual extended family brunch at my Aunt Louise's house. She's my mom's younger sister, a nurse with a loud laugh and a weakness for tacky Santa sweaters. If there was anyone in the family who occasionally noticed the imbalance, it was her. But she also hates conflict, so she kept her observations to eye rolls and the occasional, "Pat, really?" under her breath. Brunch was the usual blur of screaming kids, cheesy potatoes, and people asking me when I was going to finally get married. Such a shame a good one like you is still single, you know? Festive. At one point, while I was washing dishes, I heard Aunt Louise in the next room say, "So what's this big surprise you keep hinting about for Viv, sis?" I froze, hands in the soapy water, and listened. My mom lowered her voice, but not enough. "Don't say anything in front of Elise. She'll take it the wrong way. We're helping Viv with something important, that's all." "Oh," Louise's tone sharpened. "Important like paying off another credit card? Or important like, it's our business," my mom cut in. "Icy. Vivien has had a rough couple of years. That last breakup destroyed her. We're her parents, Louise. We're allowed to support our child. The last breakup where she moved in with a guy she'd known for 3 weeks and quit her job because he said he'd take care of her?" Louise asked dryly. I heard a rustle and assumed my mom was straightening something aggressively. She has a soft heart. Not everyone can be as tough as Elise. Anyway, like I said, please zip it. I don't want drama at Christmas. There it was again. Tough. Strong. Translation: easy to disregard. My hands were shaking as I rinsed plates. Later, Aunt Louise caught my eye and gave me this look, like she wanted to say something but thought better of it. I didn't ask, because I already knew, on some level, that whatever the big surprise was, it wasn't for me. Christmas morning. My mom has this rule that no one is allowed into the living room until she's lit the tree and turned on the music and made coffee. She likes to present Christmas, like a show. We lined up in the hallway like kindergartners. My dad went first, then my mom, then Vivien, who was literally bouncing on her toes. I was last. When we walked in, my breath did catch for a second. I'm not made of stone, okay? The tree was beautiful, the room smelled like cinnamon, and there were piles of wrapped gifts everywhere. My mom had even set up her old camcorder on a tripod to capture the memories. "Okay," she trilled, clapping her hands. "Stockings first, then the special thing. The special thing." I felt my stomach drop. Stockings were harmless enough. Chocolate oranges, socks, Tiny hand creams. My mom had clearly spent more time arranging Vivien's, though. Hers overflowed, while mine was modest. I made myself ignore it. It's fine. It's just stuff. You're 28, not 8. Grow up. Then came gifts. We do that slow, torturous thing where we open one at a time while everyone watches. My mom says it builds anticipation. I think she just likes control. Vivien's first present was a new camera. Not a cheap one. We're talking full-on DSLR with lenses. For your photography business, my mom cooed. The business Viv had decided to start 2 weeks earlier. Mom! Viv shrieked. How did you know the exact one I wanted? I have my ways, my mom said, smug. My first present was a blender. Not even a fancy blender. A plastic $40 something from a discount store. The kind that sounds like it's grinding gravel every time you use it. I smiled. Thanks, Mom. I did mention I needed a new one. See, she said brightly. I listen. I pay attention. Practical gifts are still gifts. Next round. Vivien got a pair of boots she'd been manifesting, according to her Instagram. Soft leather, some high-end brand. I got a set of tea towels with Home Sweet Home stitched on them in cursive. Again, I smiled. Cute. These will go with my kitchen. You're so easy to please, my mom said, as if that was a flaw. Not like your sister. We really have to think with her. Gift after gift, the pattern repeated. Vivien got jewelry, a spa voucher, a weighted blanket because she'd mentioned having trouble sleeping. I got a candle that smelled like winter woods and a cookbook for quick meals for busy people. Fine, whatever. I told myself over and over, it's not about the money, it's about the thought. It's fine. Then my mom cleared her throat and did this little tap, tap, tap on her wineglass like she was about to give a speech. Okay, she said. Now for the special thing. She turned to my dad, Greg. He sighed, got up, and disappeared into the study. When he came back, he was holding a slim white envelope. He handed it to Vivien. My sister gasped because she lives for this kind of drama. What is this? She breathed, eyes wide, camera already turned toward herself to catch her reaction. Open it and see, sweetheart, my mom said, her voice trembling with excitement. Vivien slid a manicured nail under the flap and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Her eyes scanned it. Her jaw dropped. No way, she whispered. No freaking way. Are you serious? My mom was practically vibrating. Of course we're serious, honey. What is it? I asked, my voice sounding weirdly far away. Viv shot me a look, like she'd honestly forgotten I was in the room. Then she turned the paper around. At the top, in bold letters, I saw the words, contract to purchase. My brain lagged for a second before it clicked. A condo. They were buying her a condo. It's just a little starter place downtown, my mom gushed to the room. Even though the room was us. We've already put in the offer. 2 bedrooms, so there's space for your studio. It's walking distance to that yoga place you love. We'll cover the down payment and co-sign the mortgage, so your monthly payments aren't so scary. Now, you don't have to throw money away on rent. The world went quiet. I could hear the hum of the refrigerator, the faint crackle of the fireplace, my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. A condo. A whole freaking condo. My parents had told me, for years, that they couldn't help me with a down payment. It had been my little private heartbreak. I'd watched friends get checks from their parents, little leg ups, while I saved and ran my numbers and told myself, one day, you'll get there alone. And here they were, casually dropping what had to be at least $70,000 like it was some cute surprise for the child who had never held a steady job for more than 6 months. Mom, Vivien stammered, I don't even know what to say. This is insane. I don't deserve. Don't you start that, my mom cut in, tears in her eyes now. You have had such a hard go of it. That last breakup was traumatizing. We want you to have stability, somewhere that's yours. It's time we invested in your future." She looked so proud of herself, so smug, like she was being crowned donor of the year. I swallowed hard. "Wow," I managed. "That's big." My mom turned to me, and her face did this thing, this brief twitch of guilt, before it smoothed out. "Elise, don't make that face," she said. "You know we love you both. But you're doing so well. You've got your condo, your career. Vivien's been struggling. It's only natural we'd help the one who's behind, right?" There it was. The justification all wrapped up in a bow. "It's not a face," I said quietly. "Don't start," she warned. "Please, Elise, don't ruin this." Not everything has to be some competition. My dad shifted in his chair like he wanted to say something, and thought better of it. Vivien, to her credit, looked genuinely uncomfortable. "Elise," she started, "if this makes you feel weird, I totally get it." "I mean, they helped you with..." "With what?" I asked. My voice came out sharper than I intended. "What have they helped me with, Viv?" She blinked. Your student loans?" I laughed. I couldn't help it. It burst out of me, ugly and loud. "My student loans?" I repeated. "I worked 3 jobs in college. I paid those off myself." "Mom, did you tell her you helped with my loans?" My mother stiffened. "Don't use that tone with me. Did you?" I pressed. She waved a hand. "We may have given you a bit of money here and there. Gas money. Food. It all adds up. Vivien doesn't keep track of these things. She trusts us." That's the difference. There was this horrible, stretched silence. I realized in that moment that not only had they given Vivien tens of thousands of dollars over the years, they'd been rewriting history as they went, telling her, and themselves, that they'd been just as generous with me, that I was ungrateful for not seeing it. I felt something inside me crack. Not loudly, not like shattered glass, more like when you pull a sticker off slowly and suddenly it gives way. This was the moment in every other year where I would have apologized, where I would have said, "You're right, I'm sorry, I'm being silly," and swallowed my feelings whole so we could all get back to the Hallmark movie. But I didn't. Instead, I asked, in a voice that was eerily calm, "So just so I'm clear, you're buying Vivien a condo, and you've never been able to spare even, say, $5,000 to help me with the down payment." My mom stared at me like I'd burped at church. "Elise," she said, "you bought your place years ago. You figured it out. You didn't need us. You're very good with money, but Vivien is very bad with money," I finished. "So your solution is to give her more of it." "That is incredibly unfair," my mother snapped. "Your sister has had bad luck. Jobs that didn't value her. Men who used her. Anxiety. You don't know what that's like." "Okay," I said slowly. "So when I worked nights at the diner to cover my tuition, what was that? Good luck?" "Oh my God, here we go," she muttered, rolling her eyes. "You always do this. Drag up the past. Make us feel like terrible parents. We did the best we could. I am not going to sit here and be attacked on Christmas morning because we did something nice for your sister." Vivien's eyes were darting between us like she was watching a ping pong match. "Maybe we should all just take a breath," my dad mumbled. "That's all you ever do," I said, and he flinched like I'd slapped him. "Take a breath. Take a seat. Take my mother's side." My mom's mouth fell open. "How dare you talk to your father like that? How dare you talk to me like this?" I shot back. Like I'm some jealous harpy for noticing the difference between a blender and a condo. Those words hung in the air. This was the part in the movie where someone would cry and say, "You're right. We messed up." That's not what happened. My mom's face hardened. Her voice dropped an octave. "Dangerous. You have become so bitter," she hissed. "I don't even recognize you. Money has changed you, Elise. Your fancy job, your big city life. You used to be grateful for what you had. You used to be humble. Now you sound like a miser, counting pennies. It's ugly." I laughed again, but there were tears in my eyes now. "I count pennies because I had to," I said. "Because you told me there weren't any." "Enough," she snapped. "I will not have this negativity in my home. If you can't be happy for your sister, maybe you shouldn't have come." There it was, the line. The unspoken truth. My presence was conditional on my compliance. I looked at Vivien. She looked shaken, quiet, not gloating like she usually would. I'm gonna step outside," I said. "Get some air." No one stopped me. I walked out into the freezing December morning without a coat. The cold hit me like a wall. I stood on the back porch, staring at the snow-covered yard, feeling my heart slam against my ribs. You know that feeling when a truth settles in your body like a stone? That happened then. I realized, very clearly, that they weren't going to wake up one day and suddenly treat me differently. There wasn't going to be a magic moment when my mother counted up all the times I'd swallowed my feelings and rewarded me with fairness. This was it. This was how it was always going to be. Unless I changed something. I stayed outside until my fingers went numb. When I came back in, my mom was in the kitchen, fussing with the ham like it had personally offended her. My dad had retreated to the garage. Vivien was sitting on the couch, staring at the contract in her hands like it was a bomb. No one looked at me. I helped with lunch. I smiled for pictures. I answered my aunt's texts with, "Yeah, it's fine, same old." I did the thing I'd been trained to do my whole life. I performed. But in the back of my mind, a different kind of calculation had started. That night, back in the childhood bedroom that still had a faded boy band poster on the closet door, I did what any emotionally overwhelmed millennial does. I texted my best friend, Josephine, my ride or die since college, the one person who has seen me ugly cry over my mother's Facebook posts. I snapped a photo of Vivien's contract, because of course I had taken one when no one was looking, and sent it with no context. She called immediately. "What the actual hell?" she said as soon as I picked up. No hello. "Is that what I think it is?" "Yep," I said. "They're buying her a condo?" "Mm-hmm." "And what did you get?" "A blender and some tea towels." There was a beat of stunned silence. Then Josephine let out this low whistle. "Ouch," she said. "Even for your family, that's wow." "They said I don't need help," I said, trying to keep my voice light and failing. It cracked on the word need, because I'm good with money. Because I figured it out. So obviously the logical thing is to reward the person who never figured it out. Elise. Her voice softened. "Babe, I'm so sorry. Are you okay?" I stared at the glow-in-the-dark stickers on my ceiling. "I will be," I said. "Do you want me to come get you?" she asked. "I can drive up. We can fake a work emergency. Or a gas leak. I don't know. Something dramatic." I laughed despite myself. "There's a blizzard warning. You're not driving anywhere." "Fine. Then do you want to leave?" The question hung there. Did I? Did I want to be the girl who stormed out of Christmas? Who gave my mother fresh material for her Elise is so ungrateful saga? Some stubborn part of me still wanted to prove something by staying. To myself, maybe, that I could endure it. That I was above it. That I wasn't the problem. You cannot heal in the environment that made you sick. I'd read that somewhere. It suddenly felt very, very relevant. "Not yet," I told Josephine, "but I think I'm done pretending this doesn't hurt." She was quiet for a long moment. "Okay," she said. "Then when you get back to Denver, we make a plan. No more white-knuckling your way through this alone. Promise?" "I promise." We hung up, and I lay there in the dark, listening to the muffled sounds of the TV downstairs. My mom's laugh floated up, high and bright. Vivien's voice followed. "I can't believe I'm going to be a homeowner." I felt empty. But under the emptiness, something else was growing. Something harder, sharper. Resolve. I flew back to Denver on the 26th. At the airport, my mom hugged me stiffly and said, "Try not to brood about this, okay? It really ruins the energy. We love you. That's what matters." I bit back every cutting reply dancing on my tongue and said, Have a good New Year, Mom. On the plane, instead of watching a movie, I opened the Notes app on my phone and did what I do best. I started making a list. Every major financial help my parents had given Vivien over the years that I knew about. The semester's tuition they'd found a way to cover after she failed half her classes and lost her scholarship. The 3 months of rent when she moved out with that DJ and then broke up with him. The $5,000 to invest in her Etsy shop selling painted mason jars. The used car when hers mysteriously died from never getting its oil changed. It was a long list. Then I made another list. What they had ever given me financially as an adult. Christmas and birthday presents. $100 here, $100 there, gas money occasionally when I came home to visit. That was it. I'm an accountant. I like data. And seeing it laid out like that, black and white, no emotions, just numbers, it did something to my brain. It took all the gaslighting and the "you're being dramatic" and the "we've done so much for you" and stripped it down to its bare bones. By the time we landed, I knew two things. 1. I was not crazy. There was a massive disparity, and it was not in my head. 2. I couldn't keep participating like everything was fine. What I didn't know yet was what exactly not participating would look like. I just knew something fundamental had shifted. The first step of my revenge, if you can even call it that, wasn't explosive. It was an email. I waited until after New Year's, when my feelings weren't so raw I would vomit them all over the keyboard. I sat down at my tiny dining table with a cup of coffee, opened my laptop, and pulled up my lists. At the top of a blank email, I typed, "To Patricia and Gregory Parker. Subject, some clarity." My hands shook as I started. "Hi, Mom and Dad. I've been thinking a lot about Christmas and about my place in this family. I want to be very clear, calm, and factual because I know how easily conversations like this can go off the rails." I attached a spreadsheet, an actual spreadsheet. 2 columns, financial support to Vivien and financial support to Elise, years along the side. Estimates where I didn't have exact figures, but erring on the conservative side. In the body of the email, I wrote, "I've heard my whole life that things are even, and that you've done just as much for me as you have for Vivien. Looking at this, you and I both know that isn't true. I am not sending this to attack you or to keep score for the sake of it. I am sending it because I need you to understand that my feelings are not coming out of nowhere. They are rooted in a very real pattern of unequal treatment that has gone on for years. You are absolutely allowed to do whatever you want with your money. I am an adult. I have never expected and do not expect handouts. But I will no longer sit in rooms where that disparity is denied and where I am made to feel greedy or ungrateful for noticing it. What this means in practice? I will not be attending events where large financial gifts are presented to Vivien publicly as if they are neutral and fair, while I am expected to smile in the background. I will not be your free accountant anymore. Going forward, if you'd like me to handle your taxes or finances, I will send a standard engagement letter and charge my normal rate. I will be limiting contact for a while because I need space to process this and to decide what kind of relationship, if any, is healthy for me with you both. If you are open to an honest, non-defensive conversation about this at some point, where my experience is taken seriously, I'm willing to have it. But I am no longer available to play the role of the strong one who swallows hurt so everyone else can feel comfortable. I love you. That hasn't changed. But I love myself too now. Elise. My finger hovered over the send button for a full minute. I thought about all the times my mother had dissolved into tears the second I tried to express anything negative. All the times my dad had said, "Can't we just move on?" All the ways any previous attempt at confrontation had ended with me apologizing. And then I clicked send. I shut my laptop and immediately felt like I was going to throw up. Josephine came over that night with Thai takeout and a bottle of wine because she is an angel in human form. "You did it?" she asked, toeing off her boots. "I did it," I said, then shoved half a spring roll in my mouth so I wouldn't start crying. "Read it to me," she demanded. So I did, line by line. Her eyes got wider with each paragraph. "Elise," she said when I finished, "this is so Measured. Like, annoyingly measured. If anyone calls you hysterical after this, I'll personally fight them. We waited. The first response came from my dad. Subject, some clarity. Hi, kiddo. I see that you've put a lot of thought into this. I'm sorry you feel the way you do. I can't say I agree with all your numbers, but I'm not going to argue about it over email. You know your mother. This is going to upset her. But I don't want to lose you. Maybe we can grab coffee sometime and talk face to face? Love, Dad. I stared at the line. I'm sorry you feel the way you do. And bit back a groan. Classic non-apology. Josephine, reading over my shoulder, muttered, There it is. No response yet from your mom? She asked. Give it a minute, I said grimly. We didn't have to wait long. 40 minutes later, my screen lit up. Subject, wow. Perfect. The email was 3 paragraphs of pure Patricia. It breaks my heart that you think of your childhood in this cold, transactional way, Elise. Families are not spreadsheets. We have given you so much love and support over the years that you can never put a dollar sign on. How dare you reduce us to some disparity? I am absolutely devastated that you would speak to us like we're villains when all we have ever done is our best. Yes, we have helped your sister more because she needed us. You have always been capable, driven, independent. I thought you took pride in that. I thought you understood. Instead, I see now that you have become resentful and hard. I don't know if this is your job, your friends, or whatever therapy you're doing, but I do not recognize my daughter in this email. If you need space, fine. Take it. But don't you dare sit there in your fancy condo that you bought with your fancy degree and judge us for trying to keep your sister from drowning. I hope one day you realize how hurtful this is. Mom. I felt weirdly calm reading it. Maybe because she hit every single note I had predicted, minimized, deflected, made it about her pain, threw in some class guilt for good measure. The line about my therapy almost made me laugh. I hadn't even started yet. But thanks for the endorsement, Mother. What are you going to say? Josephine asked carefully. Nothing, I said. Because the truth was, that email wasn't actually addressed to me. It was addressed to the version of me who still believed she had to earn her mother's love. And that version was retiring. The next few weeks were strange. I went low contact. No calls. Only brief, polite replies to logistics texts like, Did your W-2 arrive? And We're thinking of visiting Denver in March. I started therapy because my nervous system was so on edge that any text from my mother made my heart race. In my second session, my therapist, a soft-spoken woman named Claire with kind eyes, said, You talk about your family like a system you're trying to keep running at optimal performance. Where are you in the system, Elise? I blinked. What do you mean? You're always describing what everyone else needs, what they might think, how they might react. But I haven't heard you say, I need, without immediately justifying why that need is inconvenient. That landed like a punch. I started crying so hard I could barely breathe. Because she was right. I was so used to scanning the emotional weather of my family and adjusting myself accordingly that I had no idea what I actually wanted. Once I started asking that question, what do I need? The answer surprised me. I needed peace. I needed to not dread holidays. I needed to not feel my stomach clench every time my phone buzzed with my mom's ringtone. I needed to celebrate my own wins without immediately hearing my mother's voice in my head saying, Don't rub it in, your sister is struggling. My therapist suggested something wild. You're allowed to create your own traditions, she said. You don't have to keep showing up to theirs. It sounds so obvious when someone says it out loud. It also felt like blasphemy. Around February, the flying monkeys arrived. If you've never had a narcissistic-leaning parent, a flying monkey is basically someone they send in to guilt trip you back into line so they can keep their hands clean. In my case, it was Aunt Louise first. She called one evening while I was making pasta. Hey, honey, she said too brightly. How's my favorite accountant? I'm your only accountant, I pointed out. She laughed, then sighed. Listen, I talked to your mom, She's pretty torn up. I rolled my eyes so hard I swear I saw my brain. Louise, I know, she rushed. I know. I'm not here to tell you you're wrong. I think your email was honest, brutally so. But your mom, well, you know your mom. She's spinning out. She keeps saying you called her a bad mother. I didn't, I said. I literally said, you can do what you want with your money, but I won't sit there and be gaslit about it. I know, I know. Look, I'm just the messenger. She asked me to tell you that your grandmother's birthday is in April, and she'd be heartbroken if you didn't come. Maybe you can just put this aside until after? For family? There it was. The old script. Do it for family. Don't upset grandma. Sacrifice your sanity so everyone can eat cake in peace. Something in me had shifted too far to go back, though. I love grandma, I said. I'll see her another time. I'm not stepping foot in that house for a while. Louise was quiet. Then she said something I didn't expect. Okay, she said. Okay. I get it. For what it's worth, I think your mom's been unfair to you for a long time. I used to tell myself it would even out when you were older. Guess I was wrong. She sighed. I'm sorry I didn't say anything sooner. I stood there, wooden spoon in hand, stunned. Because for the first time in 28 years, an adult in my family had actually validated my experience. It was like someone cracked a window in a stuffy room. I appreciate you saying that, I told her, voice thick. After that call, the guilt got quieter. It didn't disappear, but it lost its stranglehold. In March, my dad texted again about coffee. At least give him a chance, Josephine urged. He wrote you twice. That's more initiative than I've seen from most dads in these stories, honestly. So I agreed to meet him one Saturday at this neutral little cafe halfway between my office and their house. He looked older than I remembered. Not in the obvious ways like wrinkles, but in this slumped shoulders, tired eyes way. Hey, kiddo, he said when I walked in. Hi, Dad. We did the awkward small talk first. Work, weather, the Broncos. Then he cleared his throat. So, he said, your email. Here we go. He stared into his coffee. I won't lie, it stung. No one likes seeing their choices laid out like that. But once I got past being defensive, I realized something. He looked up. His eyes were suspiciously shiny. You're not wrong, he said simply. I blinked. What? You're not wrong, he repeated. We have done more for your sister. Financially, emotionally. Your mother? Well, you know how she is. Viv's always been fragile. He winced as he said the word, like he heard how ridiculous it sounded. We convinced ourselves you were fine, that you didn't need us. And were you right? I asked quietly. Was I fine? He let out a long breath. No, he admitted. You weren't. I see that now. Silence. I should have stepped in more, he went on. I should have backed you up, or at least acknowledged it. Instead, I told myself keeping the peace was the same as doing right by my kids. He shook his head. It wasn't. I'm sorry. I sat there, waiting for the but. But your mother meant well. But you're overreacting. But your email was harsh. It didn't come. I didn't forgive him in that instant. It doesn't work like that. But a small, guarded part of me opened. I appreciate you saying that, I said. Really. I don't know what kind of relationship we can have, Dad. Not if you're still attached to pretending everything's okay. But if you want something honest, I'm open to trying. He nodded. That's all I'm asking. We didn't hug when we left. But the next day, he texted me a picture of a plant he bought for his office with the caption, "New coworker says hi," which for him was basically a sonnet. Meanwhile, Vivien and my mom were deep in condo land. In April, Viv posted a photo on Instagram of a set of keys in her palm with the caption, "Homeowner vibes only," followed by about 12 sparkles and a champagne emoji. The comments were full of, "OMG, so happy for you," and "Manifestation Queen," and "Goals." My mom commented, So proud of you, baby girl. Hard work pays off. I had to put my phone down and go for a walk after that one. Hard work. Hard work? I nearly choked. I muted both of them for a while after that. My therapist said it was called protecting your peace. I called it not wanting to throw my phone into the Platte River. Here's the thing though, while all of that was happening, my actual life got better. With all the emotional energy I wasn't spending trying to decode my mother's texts or pre-forgive her next slight, I suddenly had bandwidth for other things. I absolutely crushed it at work, like scary even to me. I'd been doing manager-level tasks for months without the title, and with my new laser focus, there was no way my boss could ignore it. In May, they called me into a meeting. I walked in braced for some budget nonsense and walked out with a promotion and a $10,000 raise. I called Josephine in the parking lot, screaming, "This," she yelled back, "is the energy we want. Independent queen getting her own condos." "I am never calling myself a queen," I said, still half laughing, half crying. But yeah, it feels surreal. When my parents found out, through a cousin who saw my LinkedIn update, because of course, my mom sent a text that said, "Congrats on the promotion. See, this is why we never had to worry about you. X, X." I stared at it for a long time. Then I locked my phone and went back to my celebratory dinner with my friends. Summer rolled around. I stayed in Denver for the 4th of July, had a barbecue on my tiny balcony with Josephine and some coworkers. We watched fireworks from the parking lot. It was the most relaxed holiday I'd had in years. There was talk of a big family gathering in August at my parents' place to celebrate Viv's new home. My mother texted me about it twice. I replied both times with, "I won't be attending. Hope it goes well." The third time, she tried a different angle. "Your sister will be so hurt if you're not there," she wrote. "She wants to show you her place." I took a deep breath, felt my therapist figuratively nodding at me, and typed, "She's welcome to invite me herself if she wants me there. And if she does, I'll consider visiting her another time. But I will not attend an event where I'm expected to clap for a gift that symbolizes years of unequal treatment. Send." 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. "Vivien. Hey, can we talk?" I stared at her name, thumb hovering. Part of me wanted to ignore it, protect the fragile peace I'd built. Another part whispered, "She's as deep in this dynamic as you are, just on the opposite side." So I answered. Her face popped up on FaceTime, framed by white walls and one of those monstera plants everyone has now. "Hey," I said. She looked older. Not in a bad way, just less like an eternal teenager. Her hair was pulled up in a messy bun, and there were faint circles under her eyes. "Hi," she said. So. Mom told me about your email." "Of course she did," I muttered. Vivien grimaced. "Yeah, she, didn't share it with me, but she gave me a very dramatic summary." "I can only imagine," I said. "She said you think they've treated us differently and that you're keeping a ledger." Viv made air quotes. "I mean, I am an accountant," I said dryly. "I keep ledgers for a living." She huffed out a laugh, then sobered. "Can I ask you something? And can you promise not to bite my head off?" "I can't promise that," I said. "But I can promise to try. Fair," she said. "Okay. Were you jealous at Christmas about the condo?" The old me would have immediately said, "Oh my God, no, I'm so happy for you," to keep the peace. The new me took a breath and told the truth. "Yes," I said. I was. And not just about the condo. It was like that was the physical embodiment of every time Mom has prioritized you over me. It was a lot. Biv's eyes flicked away, then back. I didn't know you'd wanted help with a down payment," she said. "Of course you didn't," I said gently. "Because Mom told you she couldn't help either, right?" Her mouth fell open. "Wait, how did you?" "Because she told me the same thing," I said. "But apparently, she had the money. Just not for me." Viv was quiet for a long time. I always thought you didn't want things, she said eventually. Like you were too cool for it. Mom said you'd be insulted if they tried to help because you're so independent. She said you looked down on me for taking their help. I almost laughed and cried at the same time. Viv, I said, I never looked down on you for taking what was offered. I was hurt that it was never offered to me. Big difference. She looked away, blinking fast. I feel like an idiot, she said. Like I've been walking around in this little bubble where I'm the struggling, sensitive one, and you're the secure, unbothered one. And actually, you were drowning too, just quietly. That's exactly it, I said softly. She let out a shaky breath. I'm sorry, she blurted. I'm really, really sorry. I didn't ask them to treat us differently, but I also never asked any questions. I just took it and posted about how blessed I am. We both winced. I appreciate you saying that, I said. I don't blame you for being the golden child, Viv. You were a kid. This was set up long before either of us could spell favoritism, but as adults, we get to choose whether we keep playing the roles. She nodded, chewing her lip. So, what does that look like? For you? It looks like me not coming to a party that would feel like salt in the wound, I said. It looks like me not putting myself in situations where mom can pretend everything's fair and I'm just bitter. It looks like boundaries. And what does it look like? With me? She asked, voice small. Good question. I don't know fully yet, I admitted. I'd like to have some kind of relationship with you. One that isn't based on us fighting for crumbs of mom's approval. But I need time. And I need you to understand that if you repeat her talking points to me, I'll hang up. She nodded again, tears now slipping down her cheeks. Okay, she said. Okay, I can work with that. We talked for an hour about her anxiety, about how suffocating it actually is to be the chosen one, the one mom lives through, about how she's terrified of failing because she knows our parents will swoop in, but with strings, about how guilty she'd started to feel every time they handed her another check. It was weird and healing and sad. We didn't magically become best friends that day, but the wall between us got a crack. The condo party happened without me. I know because Aunt Louise sent a photo, not of the condo, but of my mother standing on a step stool, doing a toast with a glass of champagne, her eyes a little too bright. Listen, Louise wrote, your mom looks brittle. People are starting to notice the cracks. You weren't here, and guess what? The world didn't end. Just thought you should know. September rolled in. My mom and I were still in this awkward, chilly stalemate. She sent the occasional article link. Thought you'd like this retirement planning tip? Like nothing had happened. I replied with emojis. Then, out of nowhere, she called. I stared at the screen until it went to voicemail. She called again. And again. Finally, she sent a text. I know you're mad at me, but my 60th is next month. We're having a party. It would devastate me if my own daughter wasn't there. Please don't do this to me. I took that to therapy. I feel like I'm being asked to choose between my sanity and being a good daughter, I told Claire. She tilted her head. What makes someone a good daughter, in your mind? Shows up, I said automatically. Helps, doesn't cause trouble. Is that what you want to be? She asked. Or is that what you were told you must be to be loved? Oof. In the end, I compromised with myself. I decided I would go, but only for an hour, with an escape plan, and with the full intention of not swallowing any more lies. Josephine came as my +1. She wore a red jumpsuit and looked like she was about to serve court papers. We pulled up to my parents' house, my heart pounding. Inside, it was the usual scene. Fairy lights, cheese platters, people milling around with wine. There was a giant, 60 inches balloon in the corner. My mom was holding court near the fireplace, mid-story, hand on her chest. And then I said to the doctor, I don't care what the chart says. That is my daughter you're talking about, and we will do whatever it takes, she was saying as we walked in. Of course she was telling a story where she was the hero. Elise, she exclaimed, spotting me. Her eyes swept over Josephine, clocked her presence like a threat, then returned to me. You made it. She hugged me like we were on camera. You look so thin, she murmured in my ear. Are you eating? Then louder. Everyone, my eldest is here. The accountant. Small talk. Introductions. Her friends gushing about how lucky my mom is to have such successful daughters. My mom doing that thing where she downplays my achievements so she doesn't sound braggy but still gets the credit. Oh, Elise is just good with numbers. She got that from Greg. I clenched my jaw and smiled. Then came the speeches. First, my dad, sweet and bumbling, talking about how my mom holds this family together. Then Aunt Louise cracking jokes about their childhood. And then, of course, my mom insisted on doing a speech herself. She stood there, glass raised, basking in the attention. I just want to say, she began, that my greatest achievement in 60 years isn't my career or my home. It's my daughters. She gestured at me and Vivien, who was standing on the other side of the room. Everything I have ever done, every sacrifice I've made, has been for them. People awed. I have gone without so they could have. I have fought teachers, doctors, anyone who stood in their way. When they hurt, I hurt. When they succeed, I feel like I've won the lottery. There's nothing I would not do for either of them. I felt something go hot under my sternum. I saw Vivien look at me over the crowd, her eyes wary like she could feel it too. My mom continued, People tell me all the time, Patricia, you're such a generous mother. But to me, it's just love. That's what love does. It gives without keeping count, without keeping count. I cracked. Before I could talk myself out of it, I raised my hand slightly. Can I say something? I called out. The room turned. My mom froze, wine glass halfway to her lips. Elise, she said slowly. This is my birthday, I know, I said. My voice was shaking but loud. I'll be quick. Josephine's hand brushed my elbow under the radar. A silent, I've got you. I just want to thank you, Mom, I said, for making your priorities so clear this year. A nervous titter rippled through the crowd. What is that supposed to mean? My mom snapped, her cheeks flushing. You said you give without keeping count, I said. But that's not true, is it? You kept count with me. You told me over and over there wasn't enough for 2 daughters. But somehow, there was enough for yoga studios and Etsy shops and a condo. A couple of my mom's friends gasped. Aunt Louise's mouth dropped open. My mom laughed, high and brittle. Oh, Elise, really? Are we doing this here? You do it here, I said. You've always done it here. Public performances of generosity always angled toward Viv. Public jokes about how I don't need anything because I'm the successful one. Public digs about me being greedy for wanting basic fairness. Why shouldn't I tell the story too? My dad started to mutter. Let's not make a scene. But I held up a hand. I'm not asking you to retroactively write me a check, I said. Keep your money. Enjoy it. I'm doing fine. I looked right at my mother. What I'm not going to do anymore is pretend we grew up in the same house, Vivien and I. We didn't. She got a mom who moved heaven and earth for her. I got a manager, and I've made my peace with that. But I won't sit quietly while you rewrite history and pat yourself on the back. Silence. My mom's face had gone from pink to a dangerous shade of red. How dare you, she breathed. On my birthday, in my home, after everything I have done for you. She was shaking now. People were shifting uncomfortably. Someone coughed. Exactly, I said softly. After everything you've done. That's what I'm finally acknowledging. I set my wine glass down on a side table. I'm going to head out, I said to the room at large. Aunt Louise, happy early birthday. Grandma, I'll come by next week. Everyone else, enjoy the party. And to my mom, I hope you have a great 60th, Mom. Truly, I just won't be staying for the second act. I turned, grabbed Josephine's hand, and walked out. No one tried to stop me. Outside, in the cool October air, I exhaled so hard I felt lightheaded. That, Josephine said, eyes huge, was the most satisfying thing I've ever seen. I feel like I should tip you. I started laughing, and then, to my horror, I started sobbing. Ugly, gasping sobs. She pulled me into a hug. Hey, let it out. You just shattered a whole ass family script back there. Of course you're shaking. I ruined her party, I hiccuped. She ruined your childhood, Josephine shot back. You merely lightly edited her narrative. I cried all the way home, not because I regretted it, but because some deep part of me was grieving the fantasy that if I just behaved perfectly, I could finally earn my mom's love. That fantasy died in my parents' living room that night. The fallout, obviously, was dramatic. My mom sent a novel-length text the next day about how I had humiliated her, how even Aunt Louise thought I'd gone too far. Aunt Louise later texted me, I, in fact, do not think that. How she didn't know if she could ever forgive me. I replied with one line, I'm sorry you're hurt. I meant every word. Then I blocked her. For a while. I went no contact for 3 months after that. No holiday plans. No family group chat. Nothing. Christmas that year looked very different. I stayed in Denver. I decorated my little condo with thrifted ornaments. I hosted a tiny dinner for Josephine and another friend who doesn't go home for the holidays. We wore pajamas, drank mulled wine, and watched terrible Netflix movies. At one point, while we were eating, Josephine raised her glass. To new traditions, she said. To new families, I added. And I meant it. Because here's the thing I really want you to hear. If you've made it this far into my rambling revenge diary, walking away wasn't about punishing my mother. If that was the goal, it wouldn't have sustained me. Anger burns hot and fast. It doesn't keep you warm for long. What has kept me warm is this: the quiet joy of coming home to an apartment that feels safe, the peace of not compulsively checking my phone for the next guilt bomb, the pride of knowing that every piece of furniture, every bill paid, every trip taken is because I built it, not in spite of my family, but separate from them. My revenge, if we're going to call it that, is living a life where my worth isn't up for debate. Over time, some things softened. My dad and I kept up our tentative coffee dates. He's actually in therapy now, would you believe? Old dogs, new tricks, he joked. But there was a seriousness behind it. He said he didn't want to spend the rest of his life pretending not to hear the shouting. Vivien and I text occasionally. She sends me pictures of her dog. I send her memes about terrible landlords. We purposely don't talk about our parents much. That's a wound we'll poke at together someday when we're both ready. My mom and I, well, she sends the occasional birthday or thinking of you card through my dad. Always with some line like, my door is always open if you're ready to move on. I'm not ready. Maybe I never will be. Or maybe one day we'll have a conversation where she doesn't cry and make it all about her, and I won't feel like I'm 9 years old again begging for scraps of fairness. Until then, my door is open too, to people who treat me like I matter. Last week, I did something that would have made 22-year-old me faint. I bought myself a piece of jewelry I've wanted for years. A small, simple gold ring with a tiny diamond. Nothing flashy, just solid. Mine, the saleswoman asked. Special occasion? I smiled. Yeah, I said. I'm celebrating, choosing myself. She laughed like she thought I was being cute. But I wasn't joking. Choosing myself over a rigged system. Over a role that required me to set myself on fire to keep other people warm. Over a version of family that only worked if I was willing to disappear. If you're watching this, and any of this sounds familiar, if you're the strong one, the sensible one, the one your family leans on but never really sees, please hear me. You are not crazy for noticing the difference. You are not ungrateful for wanting basic fairness. You are not evil for setting boundaries with people who refuse to change. You can love your family and still say, I won't do this anymore. And you are allowed, more than allowed, you are entitled to build a life where your needs aren't always last on the list. If my story hit a nerve, if you found yourself nodding along or clenching your jaw or whispering, "Oh my God, same," I'd love for you to stick around. Subscribe to Revenge Diary so you don't miss the next story. We talk a lot here about messy families, quiet revenge, and what it actually looks like to reclaim your life. And if you know someone who's the Elise in their family, the responsible one, the overlooked one, send them this video. Share it with your group chat, your sister, your coworker who dreads the holidays. Sometimes just hearing, "You're not alone," is the first step toward changing everything. Thanks for listening to my very long, very overdue Revenge Diary. I'll see you in the next one.